BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football.
It's football time,
It's
everyone.
football time. It's back.
We're
And
in it.
tackling is back.
BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games.
That's right. And if you think you know your stuff, if you think you do.
I think I know my stuff.
Okay, well, then you should get in on the $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at a weekly prize and share of $200,000.
That's a lot.
Against the spread. At least it helps a little bit.
It's a lot of bones.
It's still hard to pick. You got to get 5.
When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games.
That's right. You just head on over to the website today. Get in on the action.
Bet online. The game starts here. Evan, before we get into this podcast, we have to discuss something.
I know what it is.
What?
Dying.
That's right. Everyone's favorite subject at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep and you're staring at the ceiling. It's going to happen to all of us. Nobody likes to talk about it, but here's the thing. We are partnering with Life Happens, which is an unbiased nonprofit focused on life insurance education. Life insurance is a really important thing. I got life insurance when my wife and I bought our house because we knew if, God forbid, something happened to one of us, we'd want to be able to stay in this house. We'd want the family to still grow up in this house. And that is the purpose of life insurance. It's not for you. It's for the ones that are left behind.
That's right. So you can go to their website, even through our link, lifehappens.org/thedumbdads, and even get hooked up with a professional that will help walk you through everything because, yes, of course, it can be overwhelming, but also so is a lot of adulting things. And they can walk you through the best way to figure out how to get this set up for the rest of your life and for your family.
So make sure you and your family are protected and check out Life Happens. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the Dumb Dad Podcast. My name is Kevin, and I'm a dumb dad.
My name is Evan, and I'm a dumb dad. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest.
Yes, we have Brian Steiner from Life Happens. We're going to chat with him in just a moment about...
It's going to be an adult conversation. As much as I think we held ourselves together pretty well, but it's a pretty adult conversation.
I felt pretty good about it. I feel like we handled it pretty well. He was very nice to us, but I'm sure he was like, grow up. No, he was awesome.
No, it was a pleasure. It's an important chat about just planning ahead for your life insurance and all things adulting.
Yeah.
We got into it, so that's really fun. But before we get into that, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping.
Guys.
Quick announcement we want to say. We are doing another live show. We're doing this one in Los Angeles, California, home turf.
We're going to be performing at Dynasty Typewriter on October 2nd at 7:30. Check out the links in the bio for tickets. And please rate and review this podcast. I say it at the end, but I will say it again at the beginning. Ratings always help reviews. We love reading them. We'll read one on the next podcast. We have a guest, so we're not going to do it today. We'll read one on the next one. But enjoy our conversation with Brian Steiner.
Brian, welcome to the Dumb Dad Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Evan, Kevin, pleasure to be here. It's a pretty awesome opportunity. Been following you guys for a long time on Instagram. My kids love it. My wife loves it. So to be a part of it and spend some time is
Even
pretty
the
awesome.
kids.
The kids love it.
The press conference?
Do your kids, when they watch our videos, ever do like, Dad, do you do that? Like kind of thing? Because I feel like sometimes my kids will go, when did that happen?
Do you really talk about me that way?
Yeah.
Was drop off at school that tough?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's looking. I guess my wife gets more of a kick out of it. But no, it's so easy. It's like sometimes I snore and I get relegated to like the guest bedroom, but she's like not asleep. So you're just sharing things on Instagram, like direct message from like the other room, and sometimes that's what you get. At nighttime in bed, that's when you guys are popping up.
Nighttime in bed. We hit that quite a few times.
Yeah.
We get sent across the bedroom. That's always funny.
Well, Brian, let's you know what? Let's just jump right into it because, like we've said before, life happens, right?
Does.
That's the name of the company, and it sure does. And one of the most important topics the most important topic of your company is life insurance. So, can you just kind of walk us through maybe
your position,
your role, and then and how you see maybe the subject matter changing and getting to be talked about in like modern, our modern society.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. I'm the executive director of Life Happens, which is a pretty cool opportunity that I got to come on board with Life Happens just about a year ago. In some previous roles, we worked closely with the Life Happens team, but came on board in October to kind of help lead them moving forward. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary, so they've been talking about life insurance to consumers for 30 years. And September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. If you didn't know, big month for us. Okay. It's kind of our flagship.
If you didn't, now you do.
Now you do. So we've been, mission is really around educating consumers, all types, about the importance of protecting themselves and their families with life insurance and other protection products. But, it's not just about insurance too. It's about financial security, saving money, retirement, things of that nature. So, we used to do it through we've done it through a number of different media campaigns through the years, but there's such an importance to be visible through social platforms, more so now than ever. I mean, so many people, not just younger generations of millennials and Gen Z that are, going online to find information, but it's a lot of the baby boomers and Gen X and things that are they're trying to source relevant, trusted information. So we've really focused a lot of our time and attention to be more visible on all the platforms, and having an opportunity to engage with you guys and talk about it today. Doing something like this, the more people that can hear it and enact, we can have impact on is a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you have this survey in it. It was really interesting because one of the things it said was that paying for life insurance is something that makes them feel like an adult, and it is such a funny thing because I remember my wife and I talking to someone about getting life insurance. It was like 4 years ago now, and I feel like millennials, I'll speak for, as I am one, have this I know arrested development isn't the term, but it's this imposter syndrome of being grown-ups and adults. And I talked about it recently in our Instagram stories about how I had to talk to this guy I'm on the PTA, and I had to talk to a guy who's on the school board for the whole county. And the principal was like, all right, you're going to talk about this, this, and this. And I walked in and I was like, God, this guy's a grown-up. I'm not a grown-up. And I'm almost 40. Yeah. 2 kids, live in a house. I'm checking the boxes, but I'm like, nah, you guys don't want me.
You don't.
Nah, I don't think so. and life insurance is just another one of those things. It's I don't know if it's denial or whatever, but having life insurance is just oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I said earlier, it's, talking about getting sick, dying, and getting hurt, aren't things that people like to ignore, push off, procrastinate. But
sure.
Talking about adulting, every time I hear adulting, whether it was in this survey or just generally speaking, I can't help but think of Will Ferrell's character in Step Brothers. At the end, when he comes out of the Costco with the toilet paper and he's pumps his fist and he's like, yeah, we're done. I don't know. I always go there that's kind of what I associate. But
that's a great reference. Yes,
yeah. He does. And they're going to bed at 7:30 doing their taxes. No, but I mean it's one of those. I feel life milestones. Whether you're getting married or having children, those tend to be the things to push people over the edge to start thinking about it or exploring it or acting and going through the process to figuring out what they need and doing it. But it's one of those misnomers. Life insurance relatively inexpensive to get when you're younger, and in so many of the carriers that are out there, you can lock in your insurability. I was a year ago I was 30 pounds heavier, and you go through an underwriting process to get insurance, and you may not be you may get rated, the cost may be different. If you end up being diabetic or have some sort of ailment or things that could make insurance more expensive down the road, the sooner you do it and act. It kind of locks you in. They can't take that away from you. And, it's one of those things we always encourage if you're not married or you don't own a home or you don't have kids, it's one of those simple baseline things to do that is a pretty light lift and can, be a little bit more, you can protect you down the road.
That was one of my main questions was when we were talking about this before we jumped on with you was what's the incentive there to boy, talk about feeling like an adult. If you have kids and a car payment and a house payment and all these things, so it's all of a sudden I may not feel like an adult, but I sure am acting like one sometimes.
Right.
But if you're single and you live in an apartment and you have a job, kind of the point is then set yourself for success or stability later on,
Yep.
and not even having to worry about it, and it'll probably be inexpensive for you at that point. Locking in it, is that kind of the idea?
Very much so. And again,
What
there's
an adult question I
what
just
an
asked.
You
adult.
did a great job.
You guys, I tell you what, that's excellent. You guys are killing it. No, I mean, that's the case. I mean, there's a lot of living benefits to life insurance too. Through your employer, you have your 401ks, or maybe you have an IRA on your own. But life insurance isn't necessarily exclusively for protection. I mean, obviously that's the original intent. But there are definitely some investment components to it as well that, again, may not be pertinent to someone young, but people that can, if they're looking to diversify their portfolios, it can be something to leverage in time. But, it's always, you never know what tomorrow brings. You may meet the love of your life. You may find out that you're, who knows, you may end up married or have a kid sooner than you think. And,
Right.
making sure you're protected.
So what kind of ways do you keep it fun? Do you tell them like, all right, so you slip on a banana peel and
Hear me out.
whoopsie daisy.
Hear me out. It's the industry could probably use some of those more whoopsie daisy like scenarios.
Just all cartoon.
It's all cartoon driven, a lot of animation.
You're chasing a roadrunner and an anvil falls on you.
We, again, from a life happens perspective, we do try, I mean, obviously, hopefully doing more things like this to bring attention to it and talk about it. I've got an awesome creative team that sources a lot of good, fun animation. And, there's some posts even on LinkedIn that we have today that are, if you know Jenny, if you're from the 80s and you know Jenny's phone number, you should talk about it's probably time to review your life insurance. And, stuff like that. It doesn't always have to be, the sad stories, which are all true. Again, anything can happen. You don't know what tomorrow brings.
That's true. It reminds me of that. What is the Australian commercial "Dumb Ways to Die"?
Dumb
They
Ways
made,
to
like,
Die.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that before? It's like
Yes.
it's like
Yeah,
a hilarious
Metro.
cartoon. Yeah, Metro. It was like it's basically a warning of like be careful around the tracks.
Right.
But like the amount
It's
of
the
ways,
longest walk to get there.
Yeah, it's the longest one together, but it's so fun. But it is one of those things where you think like, oh, that's you like appreciate the creativity and the way that they approach a subject like that. And I mean, I
Right.
think that's could be one of our main takeaways today is like that something that could be I mean, like even just the term life insurance is like, okay, that's a pretty serious thing.
Yeah.
Like I may not even know what that is, but I know that's serious. So like even just bringing levity to a subject like that to get people to consider it, I think it's hugely important.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I mean, again, I'm hopeful. Again, it is a serious industry, and
Yeah.
there are a lot of really sad stories that are out there. But anything that we can do to, again, bring that levity to it, it could make things a little easier to talk about.
Well, let's get into it a little bit because most of our listeners are about our age.
Yeah.
So
Doing some adulting
doing
themselves.
some adulting, and it's the general. So we'll say between like 25 and 45 will probably be like the general range of our listeners.
Yep.
So what would let's just say they have kids. We'll leave the marital status out of it, but what would your advice be to them for what kind of insurance should they get? Because again, the way it was explained to my wife and I, that was kind of like one of those adulting moments. It's just like, God forbid something happens to one of us, then the other one has a house payment to worry about, has two kids on their own now to take care of. The income went
Right.
down, all that stuff. So life insurance can help kind of alleviate
Sure.
those problems and kind of make your life easier, whether it's like a 30-year term that kind of covers the house. What would you recommend for people around that age? What kind of-
This is such a generic response, but it's so situational.
Sure.
I encourage everyone, regardless of walk of life, age, how much money you make, how little money you make. I think everyone deserves to have some everyone deserves an advisor, an agent, and to get some professional advice. And I think sometimes people, maybe you're not making as much money and you don't think that, that person's not going to that advisor doesn't want to talk to me because I'm not necessarily their type of client, or
Sure.
there's a lot of that. First off, all the listeners, everyone deserves it and they have a right to it. Talking to a professional and kind of evaluating and going through the process of, what are your needs? I mean, how much income ultimately, if I were to pass away, what impact does that have on my family? Do they need my full income? Are you trying to pay things off? Are you trying to have a chunk of change there that is invested and generates, monthly distributions that you're living off of. There's a lot that comes into it. Are you going to send your kids to private school, public school, university? Where are you doing it? So every situation is a little different. We have a great off the lifehappens.org website. There's a great needs calculator where you can a few quick steps. It doesn't recommend a company or a type of insurance. It just kind of talks more about the amounts that they recommend as a baseline. It's a great resource. It's pretty unbiased, but kind of going through a process like that or talking to a professional to understand what are you trying to replace? Because it's different for everybody. I mean, my wife probably drops our country club. She's probably not concerned about, replacing my golf expenses and things like that if I'm not here. So,
so it's gonna be a wash.
It's gonna be a wash.
So what it sounds like is just get started. You're in a
Yeah.
better place tomorrow than you are today if you just go to the website and click on it and see if there's an option or
It is such an easy thing it's an easy thing to do, but it's an extremely easy thing to procrastinate on because it's one of those things.
Yeah.
I mean, even I know just going through not even the insurance process, but having a will or a will and trust and things like that. It's so easy to be like, oh, I'm going to go through it. Contact the attorney. I'm like, I got to download the forms. I got to fill this out. I'll do this tomorrow. And it's 5 years later. You're like, I didn't do it yet. Insurance can happen the same way. And
Now we're talking.
again, now we're into the weeds of this.
now we're in it. It's taking that step. I think just being, again, trying to be proactive. And that's where, having access to a professional, advisor or agent, a lot of information's out there online. Working with a professional, not only are you going to get good advice, but they hold you accountable. They're going to follow up, make sure you're actually doing it. And, sometimes that's half the battle.
I love that you said that, everybody deserves to have a chance to speak to a professional about it. This probably is the biggest thing is because like you said, you start in on it and the first thing you click on that gets confusing, you're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. There's 17 different kinds of this. What does this mean?
Yeah. I'll give you an example as to outside of life insurance, but that kind of mentality is my son saved his money forever to buy this little 3D printer, right?
Okay.
And
do you use it more than he does?
No, because now probably yes. But I mean, we bought this thing, it comes with a little SD card and you put the SD card in and they were like demo prints. You could click on it and say print and see it work and it would, it was like a cat and a dragon or something. And he's like, all right, let's print other stuff. And I'm like, it's so difficult for me to explain to him or trying to figure out a way to say, right, we have to get files, 3D print files on the card that will be readable by this machine. It's hard to explain. So I was like, try to watch a couple YouTube videos, see if you can. I was trying to give him a little bit of, see if he could figure it out a little bit before I just take over and do it for him.
Right.
But of course, he watched a few videos and was like, I don't know what they're talking about. And I was like, great, I'll try it. First couple times, I was like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. So this thing sat for 2 months, and at one point it got kind of stuck and we couldn't get it unstuck. And I felt so bad that it was just sitting on his desk, I didn't know what to do. And so I finally sat down and was like, all right,
it's time.
I'm going to dedicate some time here to figure out what kind of file does it need to read? Okay, then I found that answer. And it's just pecking away at little things. But then once it was done and we actually printed something that worked, that we downloaded and it worked, it was so well worth the time. I mean, some of those things.
Are you coaching up other kids now that have 3D printers or
no, I wouldn't even
taking it on the road?
He's got a YouTube channel.
But it's one of those things you sit down and just invest your time into figuring out and understanding it. But man, if somebody would have walked in my house or on a Zoom call that's a professional, it's like, oh, I know that model. Have you checked this and this and this? It's it feels like such a big help if somebody just knows what they're talking about when you have no idea about the subject or any of it. I mean, that's got to feel so much better.
I totally agree. And and there's again there's a million types that are out there, a variety of types that are out there. But for the people that are your listeners, and for the younger folks, it's more about getting the appropriate amount of coverage. It doesn't really matter. Is it a term and contract? Is it a whole life contract? Is it a universal, whatever the vehicle is? Yeah. First and foremost, if you're trying to, protect a family or assets or things of that nature, it's making sure that the amount's right. And then you back into it from there. And then what flexibilities do I have in an effort to secure that number based on your needs? So that's always, again, not to overcomplicate It can be a simple process, but it is a little bit of adult. Again, can be overwhelming, and again, adulting. It's Will Ferrell coming out of Costco with some toilet paper.
Another thing on your survey here, right on the top, adulthood officially starts at age 27.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What the hell?
When did that happen?
I wish someone would have told me.
They didn't survey me.
Yeah.
I don't know. When did you guys feel like you became adults? Was it when you became the PTA president?
Man.
How did you? You need a hug, man. That's a.
I'm not the president right now.
Okay.
I termed out.
You termed out. No, I feel like adulting 27. I mean, I was fortunate. I bought a house when I was 24, but it was like right in the middle of. It was like early 2000s when like the housing market was nuts and then collapsed. So I wouldn't say that was my.
You got it right in the window.
I got right into it, which it was a great learning experience. But I felt like an adult until like I moved in and like you don't have any furniture and your place is empty and you just got like natty lights in your fridge and you're like, I'm not there yet, but I got this house.
I'm presenting as an adult, but
I'm presenting the outward adult.
It's funny you say that because I feel like the moment, one of the moments, not the moment I maybe felt like an adult, but a moment where it was like, oh no, I have to adult here was moving into the house.
Yeah. Home ownership's nuts too.
Home ownership is nuts. We got a washer dryer delivered, and it was by one of the big box companies, and they were like, their rule was they couldn't do what is that thing called, like the vent. The filter vent off the dryer.
Okay.
The duct or whatever.
They were like, yeah, we're not allowed to go under your house. It's just like our company policy. And I was like, oh man, we had all the stuff. And I was like, oh, so if I went under there, would you walk me through it? And he's like, yeah, man, absolutely.
So you got in the crawl space?
I went in the crawl space and I like
too claustrophobic for me.
You can't even get on your hands and knees. It's so low.
Did you learn how to source a dryer vent?
I did. I sourced a dryer vent. I did that. And then,
no fires, no backups?
Let me finish.
Oh.
Please don't interrupt.
It's coming. It's coming.
We recently had some plumbing done. And while the guys were down there,
oh no,
I just like heard one of the plumbers yell to like the head guy who was like in the kitchen with me, and we were just like talking through everything. And he was just like, hey, Bob. Yeah. He's like, the dryer vent is detached and it's just blowing lint everywhere. So I was just putting
everywhere down here.
I was just putting a fire starter, just lining the bottom of my house with a fire starter. And he looked at me because he knew I heard that. And I was like, is that something you can fix? And he's like, absolutely it is.
I'm glad you guys did some plumbing work.
But like doing the adulting around the house, like of like, because you should pay a guy to do it. Like that's always the joke is like the husband wants to do it and the wife's like, can we pay a guy to do it? Sometimes the guy's expensive. And
I don't even moonlight as the guy. I just
no.
I mean, I can hang
I
can hang the picture. Like there's a lot of straight level pictures in our home, but I outsource. When my wife and I got married, I'm not even embarrassed. I'll own this. And I had a home too, mind you. My toolbox was something that I got when I was a teenager, opening a checking account at like our local bank in Western Pennsylvania.
Yes.
It was pink.
What was the local bank called?
It was Southwest Bank.
Mine was Lowell 5.
Lowell 5.
A Lowell 5 cent.
Yeah.
Lowell, Massachusetts. So
hilarious.
Yeah, but you get like the free gift. It was this like chintzy little screwdriver hammer, and I rolled in and it was like, this is what I got. So I've had a list of call the guy. I got a lot of guys.
Good for you.
Yeah,
man. That's good that you do that. There's many a job I've done where I was like, I should have called a guy.
I'm not that guy. I try to do all of it myself but I will say I am good at getting to the point knowing I don't cross the point of no return.
Okay.
I get to that point before I'm like, I think if I went further, I'd make a big mistake that would cost a lot of money. So now is the time.
This is where I back
ever since I was a kid, I've liked like taking stuff apart and seeing how it works. And like, I've just had that in me since I was like a kid, like that idea of like learning how something works time is money, man. I don't have to explain that to other adults, but I am sort of like that. But there is a sense of pride of like learning how something works and fixing it, and then it's done. but I also admire the fact you're like, no, I'm just going to call somebody and I don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah, fair. And I grew, my dad was super handy. My
Yeah.
brother-in-laws, my father-in-law, everyone, they're not afraid to get into it. They're, I can tap them for stuff. But
Yeah.
they're like, they watch me. They're like, why don't you just try it? And maybe I'll step in. And then they just get like, just get out of the way. Just get the hell out of here. You're just making this worse. I can't watch you do this. And then it's okay. And then I can manage. I stand there and judge.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's okay. It's good that you don't do it because you know why? You're going to end up doing the thing, and then everybody will be like, you did a great job, and all you'll be staring at is the thing that's not exactly the way you wanted it,
Right.
whether it's like the spackling or like the whatever, the molding. You're like, yeah, but that piece over there isn't level.
No, it's you're going to, my wife would focus on the imperfection too and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So all good. Call the guy.
Call the guy.
Call the guy.
Speaking of calling the guy, Brian, what's the most difficult thing about, I guess, like positioning life insurance? Is it I guess a two-part question maybe. Is it very difficult to speak to the younger generation? Is that like the most challenging people to reach out to and have a response or get them motivated to even just think about it?
Yeah, I think, motivation. I mean, for you guys, hopefully you got families. Hopefully you're protected. But was it having kids or the home or what life event prompted you to think about it? Because I'm assuming coming out of college, that probably wasn't your first to do.
Oh, that's so funny. You think we came out of college?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Very nice. Couldn't be further from the truth.
For me, it was getting a home. Because that was our, we'd owned cars before that, but we were in an apartment, and then we had 2 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment.
You need a hug for that too.
For some of the pandemic, we were in a 2-bedroom. We got into a house. But yeah, it was buying a house and then realizing that expense was going to be like, God forbid something happens driving in LA because they're not good here.
Yeah. And you guys are in LA. I mean, housing. I mean, that's an expensive place to exist.
The earth is shaking. It's always on fire, and the drivers are terrible. Life insurance is a must here.
Lucky to be here.
The earth is shaking. It's always on fire.
It was on fire yesterday.
Yeah.
I was going to pick up the kids, and my son goes, I didn't answer this correctly, but he goes, he comes out of school, and he goes, Dad, what? Because it just smelled like smoke.
Sure.
Because there was a wildfire in the mountains nearby. And my son comes out of school, he's 5, and he goes, Dad, what is that sweet smell? And I was like, someone's house on fire. And he went, oh.
I'm not laughing at their house on fire, but that sweet smell.
Your response. That's not the correct response. It's a funny response.
See, we don't. Being in the Mid-Atlantic and growing up in the Northeast, people used to burn leaves in the fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
And my daughter and I were riding bikes, and I caught like someone was burning leaves. I don't think you're supposed to be doing that now, but nonetheless, a neighbor down the way was, and it was a quick again, I won't say sweet smell, but like it brought back some nice fall memories of growing up.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh God, it's just everywhere. Now it was that first instance where it felt good. But no, living where, there's wildfires all the time, it's a different game.
Yeah. But it was owning a house, to answer your question, was definitely like leaving an expense with one or the other was just like, you're just proud of buying a home. And you're like, we thought about the fact of like, obviously it would be devastating if one of us passes early. And then it's like, then on top of that, you've got to worry about the mortgage or where you just know you're not going to be able to handle the house. So it's like, well, we're definitely selling this right away. It's like, heartache on top of heartache. So that was definitely one of those like, it's just kind of put your finger in the hole in the boat.
It was the domino. It was like about the house. It was the domino that fell. It was like, all right, we got to do this. Yeah. Because again, and then there's, through social, you're always seeing like GoFundMe pages, which are, again, I'm glad that they exist and I'm glad they're, people contribute and help. But like, from our team, we're always like, we want to see less GoFundMe pages, because people are taking the steps to protect themselves and their family.
Sure. I mean, for me, it was children. Just that
Yeah.
incredible responsibility that you take on and all of a sudden have that maybe wasn't necessarily part of the thought process of having children.
Right.
It's just so overwhelming. Like, oh man, I'm definitely in charge of these kids. And
Yeah,
like
this is real.
setting them up for,
When did you figure that out?
Well, my wife told me.
Yeah.
Son's 6th birthday.
Yeah.
Still.
But just, those kinds of, that's when you really feel like, that's when I really started to feel like an adult and the responsibility of things. I mean, I still don't feel like an adult so much of the time. I mean,
No, we're just
maybe
a
it's
group
part
of
of it,
dumb
like-
dads, guys. We are
Yeah, I
just
mean, it's
hanging
a
on.
part
We're
of it
trying
is
to keep up.
the comedic mindset is always like finding something that's funny about something else. And it's like, yeah, but by the way, we have to pay for things if we want to keep them, like a house and a car, like all these things. So it was that overwhelming feeling of having kids and having, same thing, like a spouse that we want to protect each other if anything awful happens. But mostly that, like, once it's taken care of, then you don't have to think about it anymore. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things, right, Brian, is like, if you just set aside the time to figure it out, get professionals' help, and then it's done, and then, okay, maybe
That exact sentence was what my wife says when there's like something DIY in the house. Get a professional to help,
it'll be done.
and you don't have to think about it, and it'll be done.
It'll be done.
I will say this. I think one of the things why we don't think we're adults is because there's so many ceremonies in your life of like, you graduate high school, you get a trophy when you finish baseball. There's nothing for adult. It's just like, it just happens.
It's just and that's it.
I don't know.
You just realize you're an adult all of a sudden.
We think there's going to be a ceremony. There's not.
No.
What was it for you? What was your moment? Or was it because?
I mean, again, getting married, that kid moment, in the hospital, like, you're just, okay, Evan, to your point, like, it's real. Like, you're not, even when your wife's pregnant, it's not, for them, it's real. For you, it isn't yet. And then everything changes. Again, I struggle. I'm still like a third child in the house. No, I mean, those milestone moments, but every once in a while, I feel like when you stop, as an adult, maybe you start dining different places. Maybe you elevate maybe I'm not at, Jersey Mike's every day. And maybe I don't know. I feel like I turned a corner. I stopped maybe I'm shopping at Whole Foods now, whole paycheck.
Maybe just for lunch.
Just for
more
lunch.
than natty ice in the fridge. There's more than natty ice in the fridge.
Maybe
now,
you start buying decent wine. It's not the natty light.
Yeah.
That's an adult moment.
It is an adult moment.
Adult
right?
moment when it's like, what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to have red wine tonight. We're going to have a lovely Pinot.
Well, this is a great place to cut the wheel because we're talking about figuring it out. Mm-hmm. I would love to get into our dumb dad moments.
Oh, yes. Maybe you don't. Maybe if you're not aware, Brian, we talk about these every week on our podcast.
Okay.
Where we just admit something stupid we did this week.
This week,
and it's because we do it weekly.
Yours can be all time. Yours can be what was your big dumb dad moment that you had. But we could start if you want, or you can go first.
I mean, so like, there's so many levels to this. Like,
Let's go.
my kids are now at 10 and 8. Like, they're sassy. They can be sassy too. So I can get to that in a second. But one that always stands out is like when you think you have everything under control. So the first time it was my oldest daughter. It was the first time when she was a baby that my wife went out of town and I'm solo. Mm-hmm. That's an adulting moment too, where things get like
a real one.
Also, I will say, like, when you think of everything figured out, and you have that moment that you realize that you don't have it figured out. That's basically the mission statement over here.
Yeah, it's 100%. And even, I mean, not just then, but like anytime I travel a lot, and then I also like to play golf and do other things. So my wife travels. I try to make sure that I'm lockstep. Like, I'm by the book. The house is perfect. When she gets home, everything's in order. Laundry, dish, everything. There's no every I's dotted, T's crossed. Because ultimately, for guys, we have something in the holster that we're waiting to ask. But she goes away, and she was little, and she used to play with this. This has disaster written all over it, and I don't know why we gave it to her. But a travel size bottle of baby oil. Okay.
Okay.
Don't know why. I mean, that could be on either one of us as to why she has that to begin with.
Sure.
But my wife is, I think she was just landed on the way home in an Uber or taxi. And house is perfect. We had a great couple days. Like Rose and I had a great couple days. I'm feeling like dad of the year. And I go into the kitchen and she's crawling around and she has this bottle. And somehow, like childproof, somehow this thing opens up. And she is now covered. I mean, she's like a watermelon in a greased watermelon in a pool. Like it is. She's covered in oil. There is oil all over the hardwood like floor in the carpet, and I'm like, how the hell did she open it? I look like a complete idiot right now. Like I've lost. Like I'm. So it was a frantic. I think we sold that house. I still think if you walked in that spot like a foot, like talk about the banana peel earlier, like you're gonna take it. But it was like sheer chaos to like get oil off of her, like quick bath, and then try to figure out how to clean that up. But like literally, I walked out of the room for 15 seconds, and it is everywhere. And I was like, I didn't even know there was that much oil in a bottle that big. Anyway, so I was.
Did you keep it from your wife, or did she?
I mean, it was pretty obvious.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, it wasn't anything that I was in a, no one's upset. It's kind of hilarious. It was funny in the moment, but it was just one of those things where I was like, I'm going to make sure that I got this. I'm locked in because much like sounds like you guys, I'm super hands-on dad. I'm involved in all aspects of life, and I just one of those moments I was trying to be I'm going to knock this out of the park. And in the midnight hour, there was no hiccups along the way. And then literally minutes before she walked in the door, the kid is covered in what seemed like 3 gallons of baby oil. And,
oh my God.
What happened here?
What happened?
It's so funny how quickly the wheels can fall off. I mean, we're just like, everything was fine.
Everything's fine.
Chaos.
Oh man.
So
that's pretty good. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Well, mine is this week. For this week is my air conditioning went out, and that was rough to deal with. It was like 110 every day. My house is old. The windows are single pane.
Everyone's fuses are a little bit shorter with each other.
It's just like the house was heating up quickly. That happened on Saturday morning. And it was just all of it was bad because it was just set up for a failure because my wife took the kids out of the house. AC is still working at this point. Wife takes the kids out of the house so that I can paint this wall and in our living room. I have to take the TV off, remove the china cabinet, all the stuff. And I do all that. As soon as I open the paint can, I go, this isn't enough paint. And we're a single car family, and she's gone. So I was just like, all right, well, let's see how far I can get with this. But I have to finish this now. This is not one of those like dad DIYs where it's like, it's going to be 2 weeks. It's like, no, it's the TV.
Why did you have to take the kids out of the house to paint?
Didn't have to. But
I'm surprised you didn't give them a brush.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It helped.
Just the wall. Just the wall.
Just the wall.
Yeah, that's one of those moments I don't need. I don't need that core memory. It's gonna be me getting frustrated at them unfairly.
Sure.
So yeah, she just took them out of the house because it was Saturday morning. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna take the kids. We're gonna go have a fun day. She works during the week, so there's also a good opportunity for her to get some FaceTime. So I paint it. I realize, I have to get more paint. It's 110 out. We had this heat wave for the last like 10 days.
Balmy.
And I was like, when I look up a painting place nearby, and it was like 4 miles away. And I was like, okay. And I called them. Avoided a dumb dad moment. I called them and I was like, do you have this exact paint? Like this color, this style, all that stuff. And walking through, he's like, yeah, I got it. And I was like, well, let's go. Got on my bicycle, rode 4 miles there, got the paint can, put it in my backpack, rode back. Now I'm just really sweaty. I finished the job. Wall looks great. AC shuts off. Forever. And my wife and I don't notice because the house was fine. The kids come home, they're playing for a while, and I walk past the thermostat and I was like, 85. But it says the AC's on. I was like, wow. That's where the dumb dad moment kind of even started was me just going, oh wow, it's so hot out, the AC can't keep up, and just walked away.
No.
Yeah,
Because
just
like it was still blue, like I had
Right.
the Eco, the Nest,
yeah.
so it was still blue showing me it was work. Anyway,
Was it a fix or did you have to get it replaced? Because
I
that's another
looked-
adult moment where you're just like, it costs what for an HVAC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
the crazy thing is, and this
Can't you just bang it and have
Yeah.
this is the
just-
thing, we could call people
just shake it a
who
little
like
bit.
emergency come out.
it? Yeah.
I did like watch a YouTube video, and that was a good one to watch because it was like, all right, first thing we're gonna do is take this panel off and look at it. And I was like, nah, that's enough. I'm not gonna figure it out. It was one of those ones that I quickly was like, no, you don't have this one.
No.
Our HVAC is 3 years old.
Oh,
So
all right.
I was like, that's way too early for this to be happening. So I specifically called the company that installed it and scheduled an appointment with them. And then Sunday, so it was like, they can't come until Monday. So it's like, we'll just get through the weekend. This is going to be terrible. Let's do it. And then Sunday, we went to the beach and we were
Okay.
there for like 6 hours. And that was, I was pushing it. Talking about a good thing I have life
That's a
insurance.
good run in the heat.
Well, I was also, my daughter really discovered boogie boarding.
Okay.
And
Is she old
we've
enough? Is
had
she
one
out there
for a-
solo or are you out there too?
we still go out there with her because like she could get swept up easily, but I'm out there with her just because why not? And then we're both just like boogie boarding, body surfing, and her and I were in the water. If we were there for like 6 hours, we were probably in the water for 5. Like we weren't out of the water for much.
Love it.
And her and I were having so much fun that dumb dad over here didn't think to reapply.
He's not wearing a shirt right now.
Yeah. This is just my pink skin. This is a tattoo.
Pink skin is falling off of you.
But my daughter and I both were burnt pretty good.
All right. So it wasn't just a reapply to you. It was so
It was all of us.
It was
My
all-
wife got a little burned too. My
Okay.
son didn't for some reason, but that's because I think he's 5. I think he was like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, where he put some mud all over his
just
face.
butter.
That's my son with the sand, so he had a protective layer.
Yeah, just-
he was fine. But then it was like, you knew the AC wasn't working. You knew the AC wasn't going to work till Monday. You forgot to reapply, and now you have to sleep in that house sunburned.
just burned. Not enough out. Maybe you could have borrowed some of the baby oil.
I could have.
Yeah, some
Coulda used it.
aloe, just covered.
Yeah.
So needless to say, that was not a comfortable night's sleep.
I'm glad you're on the other
The
side
AC
of
did
it.
get fixed, and it was under warranty. So I only had to pay for the labor, but it was.
And the living room looked nice.
The living room looks great.
Yeah, the walls painted, TV's back
Well,
up.
we didn't hang anything up because we knew the house was too hot. It would just like would not work out. We're like, no more labor. Nobody does anything.
Yeah. Don't move. No one move. I'll run through mine quickly here. It was just another. This is one of those moments during the week where you feel like Brian said, you're feeling pretty good about everything. Everything's under control. We're good to go. Got up in the morning. Kids were dressed. We know what time we need to leave for school to make sure we get there on time and all these things. And then my daughter, the kids are in the bathroom brushing their teeth. My daughter goes to use the bathroom and she goes, ew, my son's 9. Surprise, surprise, there was pee on the toilet seat. And she's like, gross. And I was like, hey, can you clean that up? And he's like, I didn't do it. And I was like, well, you did. I promise you it wasn't Mom. She hasn't gone to the bathroom yet, and I haven't gone to the bathroom yet today. So, have you gone to the bathroom? Yeah, but I didn't do that. And it was like, okay, well, you did. And it became this thing. He was like so defensive over the fact that he didn't do it. And it was like, how much do I press this?
Yeah,
How could you not have? I mean, that's the thing I couldn't get. And it became a thing where he was starting to get emotional about it. Now it's like, okay, well, hold on. Let's go have it. Hold on. Come here. And I brought him into our bedroom and sat and had a chat with him about it.
Wait, was the pee cleaned up yet?
Yeah, we made him clean it up. And it was like,
Oh, he did clean it up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's
he
just
was
like your
so-
daughter's just standing there going, I don't care who did it, just somebody please.
just
But
do
it
it.
became this thing where it was like, now we're having this conversation, and then that morning I was coming over here to film and stuff, and so my wife was going to take the kids to school, so she takes off, taking them to school way later than we normally do, and then traffic was awful, and they were like 15 minutes late for school, And like and then now the kids are in the car. They're like freaking out because they're going to be late. They hate being late. They're so nervous about being late to school. And it's like, well, first of all, you're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah, the sensitivity we have. If our kids are like the threat of being like 2 minutes late to something is it's catastrophic.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, she was like trying to calm them down in the car, and she's like assuring them, guys, it's fine. Like things happen. Are your other kids? Have any of your friends been late to school? Yes.
Yeah, but
did they get in a bunch of trouble? No, they don't. Okay, right. So that whole conversation on the way home, and my wife texts me. She's like, "Okay, we can all learn a lesson from this morning's chaos. Your takeaway will be that conversations like that can happen in the car or at a different time.
At a time.
Not let's pause all of the morning's activities so that we make sure this gets solved right now, because then they were late to school and it was just chaos."
You're on point. I did the same thing. Because I always pick. My wife's always like, "This is the time you pick to like have the talk," or like, the kids push your buttons, and you're cool, you're calm, and then I go from like 0 to 6. Like there's my dad was the same way. It's like I'm super laid back, and then I'm like freaking out. Yeah, and she's always like, "And now this is when you choose whatever, something stupid, like all these big things I ignore."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
And it's like, oh no, not now.
So it's so funny too, because like those kinds of things happen. Then you're thinking like, how did I? Like she says, your wife says that now's the time. You're like, well, obviously I wasn't thinking about it.
I thought he just copped to it. He peed on the seat.
Now I regret it.
Yeah, of course. Now I regret it that you're late for school and and then she's dealing with it.
Yeah,
I'm not dealing with it.
You watch too much Full House. That's why. Too many taken in knees on the corner of the bed.
Have you been in my living room? Because literally that's all that's on. Full House, the OG, and the Fuller House. My kids watch it like it's a binge.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That was definitely, I loved that show when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Loved Full House when I was a kid.
I don't think I cared for it. I didn't hate it. I just was like, okay.
Well, Brian, before we go really quickly, I want to say thank you again for sitting down and talking with us today, helping us feel like a little bit more like adults.
You guys are on track.
Is there anything that you feel like maybe we didn't, like any subject matter or something that we didn't tackle that you want to make sure that we get out there to our listeners?
A couple takeaways. Everyone deserves some professional financial advice, regardless of walk of life. So please reach out to a professional.
Love that one.
Go into lifehappens.org. We got a lot of really great, unbiased, objective content that is great resources. And there's also kind of a Find an Advisor feature within that. So there's an easy way to kind of network through. We partner with the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. Those folks are listed through the Agent Advisor Finder on the website. They all adhere to a code of ethics. So when you're reaching out and using that tool, there's a lot of trusted advisors there to access those resources if you don't have someone, within your own network to chat with. And one other thing I just want to kind of plug, Life Happens also has a scholarship program called Life Lessons for kids out there that lost parents that didn't have life insurance or were underinsured. And we've distributed close to $4 million in scholarships over the last number of years. And
that's just amazing.
Making that available as a resource to folks out there that have aspirations of secondary education and are having some challenges paying for it. So check it out, apply, and we're here to help.
That's incredible.
That's great.
That's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, again, thank you for that. Thank you again for joining us. I think the only other thing we do before we sign off is we usually tell a pretty bad dad joke. Do you have a favorite dad joke?
Oh, man. Gosh, this is so lame.
They always are.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess they are. We have there's a colleague that I have in all of our staff meetings. He always has a dad joke in the holster and weaves it in. And I'm trying to channel my inner Corey right now, but I can't. How does an ocean say hello?
It waves.
It waves.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty soft.
Pretty good.
It's pretty soft.
It's fine.
I feel like I should have done better.
No, you should hear the ones Evan does. They're terrible. They're awful.
It's been very rare that we find one where we
Rare
go,
gem.
It's not too bad.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
One's clever.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Brian.
Brian, thanks for being on. Thanks for coming to the Dumb Dad podcast. Thanks to our listeners. Please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Help push it forward. And we will see you guys next time.
Go to lifehappens.org, right, Brian?
Yes, sir. Evan, Kevin, thanks so much. Awesome time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you
problem.
so much. Take care. Welcome to the world, little one. Welcome to life.
How do I stop this?
The Dumb Dad Podcast is proudly presented by Bet Online.